Obama advisor, CNN senior political commentator, and Axe Files host David Axelrod, and CNN senior political analyst David Gergen. David Gergen, let me start off with you. I mean, again, that now there's 3 people who have told the New York Times that the president has raised questions about the authenticity. It's interesting that Maggie Haberman said that to one senator, he talked about maybe hiring people to figure out the authenticity of this. That brings me back to the Obama birth certificate, where then citizen Trump claimed that he had hired private investigators to go to Hawaii. We actually had, or Gary Tuchman, among other reporters, was on the ground in Hawaii talking to pretty much anybody you would possibly talk to, and none of those people he had talked to had been questioned by any private investigators, and there's no evidence the president ever did hire private investigators like he said he did.
Well, Anderson, we've been here before. I mean, he said he would hire private investigators. He didn't. He said he was going to sue the women after he became president who had accused him of sexual harassment, over a dozen. He never did that. So that pattern is clear. But there's another pattern that I find troubling, in fact, disturbing. Several people who are acquainted with him and worked with him in New York have told me in the past, sometimes he changes his mind about what happens, and he actually starts believing the second version, that it becomes a reality to him. I don't know whether he forgets what the first version was or not, but I think the real issue now is, does he actually believe it's not his voice? Has he changed his mind? In which case, it raises a lot of questions about just where he is in life.
David Axelrod, maybe it's because I've been off a week, and when you're not in this on a daily basis, you suddenly look at it from a slight distance, and you realize just how friggin' bizarre this is. I mean, yeah. It seems when you're doing it every single day, after a while, it starts to seem normal. But when you're away for it for a week and you come back, I mean, we're talking about the president of the United States telling people, now, according to the New York Times, 3 people, that what he apologized for, what he talked about in the debate that I co-moderated, is not authentic.
Yeah, you asked earlier whether this was some kind of strategy. I think David Gergen raises a really important point. I don't know whether it's strategy or sort of a sociopathology that causes him to say these things. I really don't know if I think it may very well be that he persuades himself that this is not his voice, that he persuades himself that he's the most accomplished president in his first 10 months in history, that he persuades himself of these things and really believes it. And that may be one reason why he delivers it in ways that some of his supporters find authentic. Because in his mind, it's absolutely the truth, even if it's completely contradictory of what he said before. So no, I don't think the problem is that you took a week off. It was bizarre a week ago, and it's bizarre still.
But David Gergen, the idea that the president would bring that tape back up into conversation, I mean, that's not a tape on this program we have replayed for a long, long time, even though, we've talked about sexual assault and allegations of sexual assault against other people. The idea that, I mean, it just doesn't, it sort of defies common sense that the president would be engaging in discussions with, according to the New York Times, at least 3 people that they know about, saying that this is not authentic and that he wants to reinvestigate this.
Well, it's clear that this wave of allegations against others has re-raised the question about his own behavior, and he must understand now that the press is very likely to revisit the stories of these women because actually sort of time was running out in the campaign to really deal with this, and I'm sure he must appreciate, or the people around him must appreciate, that new investigations may be launched by the press. So he has reason to be concerned inside. I'm just surprised and sort of the degree to which he may be occasionally living in an alternative reality is very disturbing, because it's so important when the president is there with with making decisions about war or peace and other very significant decisions. And if he's not quite sure of what's real and what's not, that has serious implications for the safety and security of the country.
You think it's possible he's not sure what's real and what's not?
Well, I certainly think that. Well, go ahead, David. I think we agree on this point.
No, David, I agreed with what you were saying earlier.
Well, let's just, David Gergen, you think you think he may? So you're answering the affirmative on that.
I am answering the affirmative. I think he may persuade himself of things, as David Axelrod said, that aren't true. But he persuades himself, and he states it sort of categorically in various ways, that it does come across as being authentic, even though it's sort of like an alternative set of facts that other people don't share.
But we should, Anderson, point out that he's also blazed a trail for others. We see Roy Moore down in Alabama, even as late as tonight, once again denying all of these charges from all of these women. And he's seen the path blazed by the president, because even though the president acknowledged his language back in the summer, he never acknowledged the acts themselves. And as David said, he threatened to sue these women. He never did sue the women who made the allegations. So, in the midst of this really big moment in our culture about how men treat women, the president is very much thrust back in the middle of it here, and he's trying to set the terms